Did you miss me? I know I missed you. We're back. Encompass has returned. And so I'm starting the episode off like this because I just want to give you some context. This episode was recorded actually back in November. And for whatever reason, there was some technical difficulties. And after trying to correct them and not being successful, I kind of just put it on pause, frustrated, whatever. Life happened, life goes on. However, I wanted to make sure that this episode got out, particularly before the end of Black History Month. It means that much to me. So I've been moonlighting in other spaces, particularly with my boys over at Pardon the Politics. More on that later. But this episode, you're going to hear it's dated. It sounds dated with the information that I provide. But I felt it very important that I bring it to you. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Sue me, I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Let's go. Wale, talk to him. Talk to him, Wale. Sue me, I'm rooting for everybody that's black. On handmade do-rags. Sue me, I'm rooting for everybody that's black. What? College and back. Let's go. Talk to my soul, Kelly. It's so beautiful. It's so soulful. Talk to him, Kelly. Gonna let, hey. Yes, sir. Talk. People, all my people. Here we are. Encompassed episode 20. How have you been? I pray that you are doing well. Oh, man, this podcast journey has truly been an adventure, let me tell you. So, when I first took the leap back in April, I sought out to help people through the wisdom that I've gained through life, the different experiences I've had. And along the way, I've received words of encouragement, support, and reassurance that this podcast is helping people. I've had people tell me that my words have helped them deal with adverse situations. They would reference an episode to help them keep themselves encouraged or even keep them even keeled and tempered during frustrating moments. I've even had someone tell me that they had the pod had helped them stay in the know and keep current with the events that was going on around them. And these things were very, very encouraging. And then, of course, I've told y'all before, there's my amazing grandmother who has echoed how professional I sound and how proud she was of the podcast and of me and, the glow on her face when she talks about it and how she needs someone to help her so that she can regularly listen and keep up with the podcast. And all of these words have reassured me that I was on the right path. But then I recently had a conversation with a friend who told me she listened to the pod and I asked her opinion. Now, she kind of hesitated at first, but she was like, hey, you sure you want my opinion? Yeah, I asked for it. What's your opinion? So she decided to give me her unabridged, honest opinion. And I obliged. I'm an honest and direct person. How can I not be able to accept your honest opinion if I asked you for it? And even if I don't, hey, it is what it is. And as a straight shooter, come direct. So this friend said that sonically, the podcast sounded good. But she said it wasn't me. And I immediately thought, like, what? What are you talking about? And as a old Drake fan, not a new Drake fan, old Drake fan, I can immediately hear him say, I had someone tell me I fell off. Ooh, I needed that. They want to see me pick back up. Well, where'd I leave it at? And didn't feel any kind of way. But I was a bit confused because I know It was me who was putting in the hours of recording, mixing some of the episodes. Shout out to my brother Frank, our producer of LXI Sounds, doing some of the mixing. And then she said, I sounded like I was trying to be safe. And I wasn't being the direct and honest individual that she's always known me to be. Now, these words, they didn't hurt. They didn't have me feel any kind of way, but it forced me to have an honest conversation with myself. And it had me clean my mirror. And so, with that, in my previous job, I was in management and I was a part of the world's largest credit union. And there were times that I would tiptoe on things simply because of my job. In this space, when you're broadcasting and you're putting things out in the atmosphere, you never know who's going to come across it. So, for instance, I don't care how it offended people. I didn't care who it offends in many instances until I got into that space. Now, here's one particular example of that. I support anyone not standing for the national anthem. How you feel about it is how you feel about it. But I support not standing, knowing the historical nature behind it. However, there were times when I felt I had to stand because it could possibly put my job in jeopardy. And we see how that turned out for me in regards to the job being in jeopardy, right? So as I reflected on these words, I recalled a conversation with my mother and grandmother where I said that my words and tone may start reflecting the proverbial shackles being taken off of me after losing that job. And I remembered another conversation with a friend who said that they felt like I was being safe on one of my episodes. And this is a completely different friend, and didn't truly let loose with my thoughts. And then I realized in some instances I have been holding back and playing safe a bit too much. Now, does this mean that I'm going to change my content? Absolutely not. The point of this podcast is to help uplift and encourage and educate. But what this does mean is that I won't hold back on expressing my opinion on topics and situations a bit more unabridged. I thank everybody who has listened. And if you have a compliment or a critique, I accept it all. I encourage it. I welcome it. This journey is not one-sided. I can learn from you as well as you learn from me. So with that, let's get these proceedings proceeding. In Encompass News, there's a lot to discuss, and I'm here to focus on what's the biggest and most important stories right now. At this time, this government is still shut down, unfortunately, and there has been no end in sight. Now, although there are some people who are optimistic that a deal can get done soon, by the time you hear this podcast, the shutdown will officially be the longest shutdown in U.S. history. The two longest shutdowns in U.S. history belongs to the same commander in Doof. They previously scrambled to get the military paid, but interestingly enough, ICE hasn't been worried about their checks at all. They were still getting paid. Now we're dealing with the issues of SNAP benefits not being paid out. And this is the first time that these benefits would not be paid out during the shutdown. Now, the political games that are being played with the livelihood of individuals is very sickening. People are worried about how they will eat, all while people are wondering when they will get paid. This should not be the case in the greatest country in the world. There have been over 900,000 federal workers who have been furloughed. And with this meaning they're not getting paid. They're sitting at home. Some of them may return to work. Some of them may not. You have major delays and cancellations of flights because TSA and air traffic control call outs because guess what? They're not getting paid. Now, I don't blame them. the stress and craziness of being a TSA agent or air traffic control, and then I'm not getting paid when payday comes, I'll stay home too. And the craziest part to me is that the federal agency that protects the nuclear arsenal had employees that were furloughed as well. The nuclear arsenal people. Now, at the time of the recording, I did see an update that said that people will receive 50% of their benefits, but this will not be immediate and could take some time before states can get this out to these benefits out to individuals. So particularly these SNAP benefits and people who need these benefits to eat. Now there is plenty of finger pointing to go on amongst the Dems and the GOP. On the episode of Pardon the Politics with my brothers, Jeezy and Manny, I broke down how there's enough blame to spread to all parties involved. Just to give you a quick glimpse, the GOP is trying to use this political game of saying that it's the Democrats who are holding up these benefits from being paid out and agreeing to the financial terms to end the shutdown. But at the same time, the Democrats, who are standing their ground, fighting for the subsidies of ACA and not increasing these prices, also played a game of roulette a few years back where they could have extended the ACA subsidies well past this time period, but tried to use this as a point of leverage against the Republicans, thinking that they would still control things in Congress. Well, guess what? That backfired. So this is the stalemate that we're at now. And things that happened, excuse me, back in the Biden administration with Congress is coming back to the forefront now. All right, now next we're gonna talk about things that happen in movies, but you didn't think you would see happen in real life in this good year of our Lord 2025. The Louvre was broken into, people. The Louvre. You know, the glass pyramid, you seen it in the Jay-Z video, you see it every time people go to Paris. The Louvre was broken into and robbed. Thieves stole royal jewels dating back to the Napoleon era and his second wife, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, you think this is something from the Italian Job or Ocean's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever one they on. But not in real life. Not in this big year. It's crazy. Now I want to give a shout out to my boo, my girl, Aja Wilson, and the Las Vegas Aces. They won another WNBA championship. This is their third title in 4 years. And then also to the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Dodgers, going back to back. My Braves will be back. It's okay. So, my next segment in what Trump done did now, I kind of talked about it already. The shutdown. The shutdown is what Trump done did now. He's leading the charge of the GOP to fight the Dems and doing away with ACA subsidies to cause the increase in the healthcare costs. So because of that, you know, I'm not really going to focus on many of the other things that he has going on right now because the shutdown is the most important thing in the Americans' lives. They are scrambling, trying to figure out how they're going to eat, how they're going to survive. People are wondering if they're going to get paid, if they have a job to come back to. So why even focus on a lot of the idiosyncrasies of his actions as we proceed? So stay updated. Check out Pardon the Politics so they can keep you abreast on the information that is happening with the shutdown, that is happening in a political space. My brother Manny has said it time and time again on their podcast. Make politics boring again. It's a crazy time in the world. It's a crazy time in America. Forget the world. And those are brothers who are providing you with worthwhile information from a culturally appropriate perspective. Try saying that 3 times fast. All right. So now you know who we are. My favorite part of the show. My favorite time in the show. Yes, it's here, y'all. Now let's take it. Ha ha, ha ha. Let's go. Top of the world, baby. On top of the world. Let's go. Up high. Hey, on top of the world, baby. We on top of the world. Yes. My favorite segment, the top segment. This is where I come to you trying to provide you with insight, provide you with just encouragement, upliftment, but most importantly, taking you to the top of the world. Now, my top segment is the heart and soul of this podcast. And the guide will always be Maslow's hierarchy of needs that lights the path for this segment. However, I'm going to be pulling the layer back a bit more, I'll say, during this segment. And today's topic is probably one of those moments where I'm going to peel that layer back a bit. Today's topic is something that I've mulled over for a while because it can be a bit sensitive. Some may call it a bit controversial. Some may be offended and not like it. Guess what? It'll be okay. This top segment is about code switching. And when I talk about code switching, I'm talking about more than just changing how we speak. Now, for Black people, many Black people, it's about survival. It's how we navigate spaces where our authenticity can come with a cost. So let's get to unpacking the good and the bad of code switching, because it can be both. And looking at how it can help us move forward, but also what it takes from us. Now, what really sparked this conversation for me was a couple of different things. Number one, just knowing the professional space or these spaces working in the working space where we have to have a certain vernacular, a certain way we speak to be deemed professional, to be accepted, was one of them. And then there was another instance that really sparked this for me, and it came from a political space, in hearing how white media and white politicians throw the word woke around and have put such a negative light, a negative connotation on the word woke. Now, yes, woke is a word in Oxford Dictionary, who is seen as the standard bearer of English language. But in the context that woke is being used by these politicians, it started in the Black community. When we said being woke, it was to have an awakening of the BS that is happening to us, to be aware, to be on point, to be on game about your surroundings, about the happenings. That's what it meant to be woke. Now they use the term woke to mean you're too liberal, you're too anti-conservative, and the nasty nature that they try to use the word woke. And so that's what really sparked this thought process and this beginning for this segment. Now, I want to acknowledge something that I heard online a couple of days ago, and it really resonated with me and perfectly fits this segment. The person stated that there are white people and then there are people who happen to be white. Now, there's a stark contrast and big distinction between the two. The distinction here is that white people are knee deep participants in the systematic oppression of Black people and other minorities. Meanwhile, white people who happen to be, people who happen to be white understands that there are injustices in this world and that they try to use their power to treat everyone equally and rid the world of racial inequities. I had to establish that because when I speak of white people, particularly in life, but in this episode, I want it understood that I'm not talking about people who happen to be white. I'm talking about those who are knee deep in systematic oppression. So now that we understand this, I got a question for you. And this is particularly, this is a very, I'm not going to say one-sided episode, but I'm talking to my Black brothers and sisters and even those of minorities here. And if you are people who happen to be white, hopefully this will give you some more insight and understanding of the systems that are in place that hinder just the day-to-day lives of individuals. So with that, I ask you, have you ever walked into a room and felt the need to adjust your voice, your tone, or even your laugh just to make others comfortable? This is an instance of code switching. And code switching can be defined, and I like to get that definition, as shifting language, tone, or even behavior depending on who you're around, the setting you're in, or the conditions you're in. Let's go here. It's when you move from, "It was good, fam," to "Good morning, everyone," without even thinking twice. It's a very defined skill. And it's one that most Black people learn early in life, especially when stepping into schools, workplaces, or social settings that are not built for us. For many Black people, it's not just a choice, it is survival. It's the difference between being seen as professional or labeled as ghetto. Now, I have a personal gripe against the word ghetto and how it's thrown around and used. And yes, Black people use it to describe other Black people. I have a hate for that word because guess what? It did not originate talking about us. Won't go there, but just know it wasn't for us originally. Now, between getting the job or being overlooked is determined on your code switching sometimes. Between being safe or seen as safe or being seen as suspicious, your code switching can determine that too. Switching from everyday vernacular, or as some would call African American English or African American vernacular English, to standard English in professional settings is the, I'll say, soft definition of code switching. But it also can pertain to changing your hairstyles, changing your clothing to avoid stereotypes. I'm not talking provocative, suggestive clothing. I'm talking from wearing what could be deemed African garb, baggy clothes, or what a term I really have a disdain for, urban wear. Yeah, you're seen as a bit more threatening with baggy jeans, Timberlands, and a big t-shirt than you are a polo shirt, Oxfords, and some boat shoes. So here's the issue. While code switching can open doors, it can also shut off parts of ourselves. It can leave us exhausted, questioning whether success is worth the cost of hiding the pieces of our own identities. And so today, let's unpack the good, the bad, and the complicated truth in code switching. Because quite honestly, it's a superpower of adaptability, or is it a tax on your authenticity? You decide. Now, I want you to sit with this question as we dive a little deeper. What would it look like if we didn't have to switch at all? If every space welcomed us as we are? Now, my goal by the end of this episode is that you'll not only reflect on your own experiences, but maybe share them with others, because this conversation isn't just about language. It's about identity, resilience, and the fight to fully be seen. Now, we can explore some of the good of code switching. And I say good loosely because sometimes this feels like the proverbial tap dance, where in that professional setting, it truly can be that difference of, hey, he's a very smart and capable and competent young man, or be dismissed altogether. Now, they do say that you never get a second chance to make a first impression. However, why is that first impression simply based off how I'm dressed? Why do you push me aside because you don't like the clothes I have on? Now, understand there are articles of clothing and things that you can wear that can be a bit repulsive, that can be um, tacky to say. But in general, you dismissing my skills, my capability because of how I speak, how I wear my hair, how I have my clothes, or the type of clothing I have on is disgusting. And for Black people to have to assimilate into a structure of being to be able to even have an opportunity to advance is very taxing. Now, this level of adaptability, as I said earlier, can be a superpower because it takes a strong skill set to be able to turn the switch on. And quite honestly, for myself, as someone who prided myself in sounding proper, um, or this is how I put it, and quite honestly, I'm full disclosure, wanted to sound like I knew how to read. Simple as that. Where that came from, I don't know. We can dig deeper and find out. But I wanted to make sure that I was able to, I guess, navigate those spaces. But I could flip the switch because when I'm with my friends, it's not properly structured grammar and words and syntax. It's abbreviation, it's slang, it's chopped up words. It's my friends. It's my safety net. But what would that look like in the workplace? And no, I'm not saying just the throwing around of profanity and just vulgarity. No, I'm saying, hey, what up, bro? All right, man. How's it going? All right, cool. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about in the workspace versus, yeah, things are all right. I'm working very hard and diligent and trying to be, successful in this space. That's what I'm talking about. The difference between those two. Now, this is survival for Black people. I've told y'all before that I worked in a space where I was the only Black person there, the first Black person there in the 20-year history at that time of this office, and the only Black person for years. So I couldn't walk through the door and talk to them how I talk to my friends. Number one, some of them wouldn't understand it. What are you talking about? What do you mean? Because there is a different dialect, just like there's a difference in our seasoning. Salt and pepper is a seasoning, but it does not mean it needs to be used all the time. There are other things that need to be used. And that's how it is with our communication. And so I knew how I had to adapt. I knew how I had to survive so that I could be deemed, I don't want to say worthy, because I always have a high self-esteem. I know I'm worthy no matter what. But I wanted to be acceptable in the workspace. So yeah, that's what I'll call it. Some call it survival. I'm gonna call it strategy. And whatever you call it, it takes awareness, it takes skill, but most importantly, it takes emotional intelligence. Now, this does remind me, and if you are not black and listening to this episode, I have a reference point for you that can give you a visual of exactly what I'm talking about. The Key and Peele skit referencing President Obama and how he switched between giving up dap and giving handshakes. That's code switching. That's truly how code switching looks in day-to-day life without words. I've mastered this ability, and I implore all of my people to be able to move comfortably in spaces that we may not entirely be welcome. And when I say move comfortably, I want you to move at the rate that makes you feel comfortable. I'm not telling you to fully inundate yourself and try to be like anybody else, but be comfortable in who you are. But also understand, if it's not a space you own, you have to be careful. Now, this is the time where I think the movement to desegregate got a bit convoluted. Now, in fighting for civil rights, I think the messaging went from we want equal protections under the law to a message of we want to have everything they have, knowing that power corrupts absolutely. Now, let me break this down for y'all. We had Greenwood, where the home of Black Wall Street. We had our own banks. We had our own schools. We had our own everything, and it thrived. And it wasn't just in Greenwood. There was in Wilmington, North Carolina, and other places throughout the U.S. where during segregation and post-slavery, we had our own areas and we had our own thriving communities. But those areas got destroyed and burnt to the ground, and people were murdered. Not killed, murdered. So the push was, we simply want the same protections under the law and the Constitution that the white man holds and that white people hold. Simple as that. But I think along the way, that messaging went from wanting these equal protections to wanting to have everything they have. And it's not realistic to me. And that's why I tell people often, I don't believe in equality. I believe in equity. And that's what that is. Equal protection under the law is equity. It's not equality. We didn't have the same starting point. We don't have the same measures that we go by. We don't even have the same building blocks. But if we have the same protections, we can be successful. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent, but it all ties in together. Now, I want to say this, here comes, with every good, there is bad. And for me, here's the nasty side of code switching. If you are not emotionally intelligent, if you're not aware and sound mind, constantly switching can wear you down. When you're always having to adjust who you are to make others comfortable, you start to question who you are. Do I fit in? Do I belong? Am I supposed to be here? To all my people out here who have jobs, who hit that switch when they get out the car to go into work, how drained are you at the end of the day? I know I'm not going crazy. It's happened to me. I've seen people talk about it online. This is a real thing. My psychologist friends would probably call this emotional labor. And it's the constant awareness that feeling you can't ever fully exhale. And over time, this constant self-monitoring can lead to exhaustion, anxiety, and even identity confusion. And then this is where you're burnt out. You're over it. You're done. And this living of two different versions, that word tackled me. Two different versions of yourself is what W.E.B. Du Bois meant by the double consciousness. Feeling like you can't bring your authentic self to work or to school. You know, this isn't just about how we speak, but how we wear our hair. In many spaces, it's frowned upon for Black people to have locks. You know, I was speaking with a group of students earlier this year, and they asked me, how did I navigate my professional settings while having locks? And I was completely honest with them. Initially, in that space, I did not have locks. Just a choice of how I was having my hair. However, when I started growing them, I didn't care. I lost the desire to care, and not care about my hair and my upkeep and my look, but I didn't care about what people thought about them. And I told them to always be their in authentic self in stepping in those spaces. And there are even policies that were put in place to restrict our people, and particularly Black women, in their hairstyles in the military. Like, you could not wear certain braids and certain updos and protective styles when they were in the military. And that was insane to me. Insane. It really feels like code switching promotes cultural erasure and reinforces the idea that Blackness must be hidden to be accepted, or Blackness is only accepted when white people are comfortable with it. I spoke earlier about the word woke. There are other instances. Here's one that drives me insane: swag surfing. We know swag surfing 10 plus years ago. It only picked up and caught on with white people about 3 years ago, and they've ruined it. And there's many other instances where I can continue to bring those points to you, but that's what I mean when I say Blackness must be hidden to be accepted until they feel comfortable with it. The word swag. Oh, another one. Dab. Oh my God. Hated it. Hated it. Hated it. Hated it. Hated it. Hated it. But yeah. But this also reinforces the nasty standard that professionalism equals whiteness, just like beauty equals whiteness, based off of what they think. And that our natural ways of speaking, our natural ways of dressing, our natural ways of wearing our hair, or just showing up simply isn't enough, or it's too much. But as I wrap up this podcast episode, I want you to ask yourself, is code switching resilience, or is it a symptom of systematic inequity? Now, we know that the origins of code switching go back to our ancestors. It goes back to being able to talk to massa or talk to the white man and make him feel comfortable. But today, why does it feel like it's the same? Why should Black people have to adapt instead of workplaces dismantling bias. Now, this is a scary thought today with the level of attack on DEI, which was just a talking point for many companies, in my opinion. I think I told y'all before I had a situation where I might have gotten in trouble. Well, I ain't get in trouble, but I had a higher up reach out to me in reference to a post I made on a company page in regards to some activities that they were doing. And I called it just a talking point and a mouthpiece of equality. Another time, another in-depth conversation. But also, DEI didn't benefit Black people the way many portray it to have done so. I can go on a diatribe of how everyone else benefited from Black struggle, oppression, and the fight more than Black people did. But I've talked long enough today and on this episode, so we'll visit that another time. Now, the real goal, and I'm going to say this and I want you to hear me clearly. The real goal isn't about stopping code switching altogether. It's to create environments where we don't have to, where Black people can bring their full selves without fear of being labeled unprofessional, or my favorite, too much. You tell me. Code switching is complicated. This conversation is complicated. But it's both an armor and an art for Black people. It's a way to survive. It's a way to shine. But the question that I leave you with is this. What would it look like if we don't switch at all and every space welcomed us as we are? Remember, keep showing up in every version of yourself. And as we end every episode, may the Lord watch between me and thee. And remember, if nobody loves you, Jesus loves you, and Tupac does too. Be blessed.